Venus retrograde in Aries and Pisces is a time to look at your authenticity. How is it showing up in relationships? How is it showing up for your partner? How is it showing up in all those kind of things going on with whatever you're doing, whatever you intend to put out into the world, with whatever you are emoting when it comes to your own emotion, when it comes to your own feeling, when it comes to your authentic side. How are you getting your needs met? Are your needs getting met? Are your needs getting taken care of? Is your love being prioritized? And in Pisces, are you showing up with spiritual compassion and forgiveness? Are you connecting to the higher powers, to your higher self, to the divine? I'm Everett Cardi, and in this episode of the Cosmic Sky podcast, I'm going to be discussing Venus retrograde in the signs of Aries and Pisces, which happened in 2025. But think of this as a preview for the next Venus retrograde to come. Now, when it comes to posting this on YouTube, I will leave that undecided because I cannot make up my mind whether I want to keep posting on the platform or not. So I will just leave it up to the time to feel if it feels right or not. I may be unreliable on YouTube, but it's my channel and I didn't do anything wrong, and I have the right to use my voice and share my voice and express myself, and I will be firm in that part of my identity, and I will not give that up easily. I was planning to just leave YouTube for 3 months, and then I just got this fire in me, like I wanted to come back. I wanted to continue posting, and I haven't really left. So my channel is a safe place. Doesn't have any link bots, anything like that, or any weird scamming thing. It's a pretty safe community, and I want to keep it that way. So I surrender control. I trust the universe. With whatever happens, it's for my highest good. It's always for my highest good. And now, let us get into this Venus retrograde. So the pre-shadow happened January 31st, when Venus entered 24 degrees of Pisces. Then on March 2nd of 2025, Venus stationed retrograde in Aries at 10 degrees of the sign. Then March 28th moves retrograde back into Pisces at 29 degrees. Moves directly back into the sign of Pisces, and it continues going backwards in that sign until April 13th, when it's stationed direct at 24 degrees of Pisces, and then it left the post-shadow when it hit 10 degrees of Aries again on May 16th. So that's the whole timeline that you need to know for this Venus retrograde. Now, getting into what this retrograde is actually about. First of all, we have to understand the planets involved. So we have to understand that Venus is about love. It is about relationship. It is about, your values, what you value, what is really, really important to you. Venus is that planet of what matters to be most. What do I find most pleasurable? What do I find most beautiful? That's Venus. And so Venus is about love and matters of the heart, and matters of understanding with love and heart-centered connection. Venus is that planet that says, I want to relate, I want to reach out, I want to do all these kind of things. Now, how you want to relate to others is determined by your Venus sign and placement. And Venus looks at how we want to relate, how we want to connect and form a relationship and a bond. Now we can look at self-worth during a Venus retrograde, because self-worth is definitely on the table up for review when Venus is retrograde. We are reviewing our own self-worth. How worthy do we feel? How good and deserving do we feel of having what we want, of engaging with pleasure, thinking that, and Venus in Aries is like feeling restricted, not being, we're going to review like not feeling like allowed, where, you can express your desires, like for me with my YouTube channel. And it looks at your own heart, like, you're invited during this time to focus on what your heart wants. What does your heart want? What does your heart desire for yourself, and what you want to put into motion, and what you want to create and advocate for and actively make happen in your life. So what is in your own heart calling you to do and say? This is a deep time of self-reflection when Venus goes retrograde, going inside ourselves, reflecting on what we love, what we value, and if it's true for us or not, if it means the world to us, if it is in fact the way that it should be, if in fact we are fully deserving, or we feel fully deserving of that love, of that validation that we get from people when it comes to feeling worthy of love, reflecting on, do I love this person, thing, place, or situation? That's always the question that we can throw around when Venus retrograde, and I'm going to ask that question when I do the Venus retrograde video in next month in September, when I to discuss Venus retrograde in Scorpio and Libra. So Venus appears to move backward. It appears to move in reverse. It appears to move in that kind of way. And it looks at beauty in finances. It looks at how well you take care of yourself, how well your finances match up for you when it comes to what you do, what you spend your money on. Because Venus is easily what you spend your money on, what you invest into. That's also Venus, is finances. What you buy. Venus is money, represents, what you buy as a representation of, your values. What you buy reflects what you enjoy, what you're interested in, what you're curious about, what you find pleasurable in your own life. And so there could be unresolved, relationship issues getting brought up to the surface during any Venus retrograde cycle. I'm going to get into the specifics of this one, but for any Venus retrograde cycle, there is really unresolved issues that are revealed. We see the unresolved karma in relationships coming up to the surface and seeing it totally revealed in our faces, where we have to clean up that karma, where we have to resolve, where we have to tie up loose ends and resolve this relationship dispute, or this disagreement, or this conflict. This separation between you and another has to be repaired in a certain way. Now, Venus in Aries is a placement that is deeply bold. It's a bold placement. It is courageous. It's it's very, very direct. It goes after what it wants very, very decisively. It's deeply decisive. It wants to pursue what it wants and go full force like a tunnel. And it doesn't need to check in with anyone or anything. It just, and that meaning AI, it just goes right in for it because it feels right, because I have the drive and the impulse to go for it, and it just goes right in. It has that brave and willing quality to just go right in and do it anyway. And so Venus in Aries is assertive. It's an assertive sign. It wants what it wants. It wants who it wants. And it's not afraid to have who it wants. And it's about, what do I want in this relationship? What are my values? What kind of person do I want to be in relationship with? And what kind of needs do I need to have being met? So that's what we have to really, really consider with Venus in Aries. Now, Venus in Pisces is, it's soft. It's very, very dreamy. There's a dreaminess to it. There's a compassionate quality to Venus in Pisces. Venus in Pisces is deeply empathetic, deeply loving. It is a sign of spirituality, of spiritual connection, of the fish going in all directions, of the fish swimming from one side to the other. Venus in Pisces is the books on the shelf that take you away to foreign lands, into new places. It's the escape route. Think of, wanting to be part of this world. The Little Mermaid, singing the song like, do, 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 part of this world. Well, like wanting to understand what it's like to live in the human world, to live up where the humans live, with all their quirks and all their ways of being and their what they do and how they live their lives and this and that. There's a dreaminess, there's an imaginative quality to Venus and Pisces, and it wants compassion. It wants compassionate spiritual relationships where we're really, really connecting to the person on a soul level. That's what Venus and Pisces is. And so we can look at what we want in the partnership and what the other ones, right? We can see, what do we want? What do I want? And also considering what the other wants. We're sort of considering both sides of the spectrum here. So with this transit, we're considering, what we actively want in this partnership. What are our needs? What are our desires? What are what do we want? That kind of thing. So I'm not going to repeat myself there. Venus retrograde in Aries is going to reveal to us how worthy we feel in love, or do we feel worthy? Do we feel worthy of receiving love, of giving love, of having an experience of love? Of having an experience of having a loving relationship with somebody else. So Venus retrograde in Aries is that love that we give and that we receive from others. But it's us actually participating in the relationship and giving that love actively. And it's about your sense of specialness, your sense of strength, your sense of empowerment with how you really feel in relationships. And so where are your needs and wants, unmet? Looking at your unmet wants and needs with, what you're doing, and, all this kind of thing. And so what is this going on here with your desires? Looking at, putting yourself first in relationship, because we all have needs, we all have desires. We desire to run a cacti over the fan, a desire to move the split over the ottar, a desire to have our love relationship and have our beautiful relationship and have the nice house with the picket fence and the 10 kids, or whatever. Thinking of an episode of Super Nanny here. But where do we need to have these desires be very, very prominent for us? And have we been overcompromising our own needs, overcompromising what we desire, what we value, what is really, really important to us? Have we been giving it up and sacrificing ourselves for others, for the system, for whoever, and not being true to ourselves? This is about reconnecting with yourself and being true to what you want, to what you need, to what is in your soul, because you're perfectly worthy of going after what is in your soul to create. We may feel rejected and unloved with Venus going retrograde in Aries. Those needs may come up to the surface with Venus retrograde in the sign. That these feelings of not feeling loved and appreciated for who we are really get revealed for us to experience. And so where do we where do we not feel loved? Where do we not feel appreciated and accepted for who we are? Because we're all worthy of being accepted exactly for who we are, no matter what we've done, no matter what wrong we've done, no matter how we've messed up in our lives and how we've done the wrong thing or said the wrong thing. We all deserve forgiveness, and we all deserve a second chance in relationship. We all deserve to have the permission and have the privilege and have the right to be fully ourselves in whatever relationship to this thing, person, or place, or system. It can even go that far. Like, we're all worthy of that. And I think that the universe responds in accordance to what is for our highest good at that time, at whatever time. So, now, are we seeking validation outside of ourselves during this time? Are we being codependent? Are we just being a yes person? Slaving away for the other, having a relationship with the other, where we are not being fully our independent selves, fully free and sovereign within ourselves to be who we are, to really, really live that truth of, who we are really. Are we just seeking it outside of, ourselves? Or are we coming back to our own center, really, really validating ourselves, saying that we can be independent, we can be, independent and taking care of ourselves, yet be in a relationship at the same time, which is what co-independence is. It is, a mutual relationship. If I'm supporting myself and I'm supporting the other at the same time. This would be good for going out bold on creative projects, making creative projects happen, really, really making a lot of creative, bold moves with whatever project that you have going on. Beautiful for that. It's very, very important to, be patient when it comes to going into relationship matters. Venus is retrograde. Things are up for review right now. We're not seeing it fully for what it is. We are in the process of review and reflection and cleaning up ourselves. So, can we give ourselves some grace with the relationship? Can we, be patient when it comes to going into our relationships, when it comes to really, really living out our strongest suit of armor when it comes to the relationships that we want to create, that we want to live in, that we are really being very, very willing to go into those kind of relationships. Now, we can finish up any important creative thing that we have going on, so any creative project, we can finish that up, resolve that. And, setting healthy boundaries with others is not a sign of, oh, I'm being selfish, I'm not caring about them, I'm really, really being, I'm not being true to myself or not being true to them. I am, hurting them. I'm not thinking about their needs. But no, it's a sign of wisdom. It's a sign of you being wise to protect yourself. There's something deeply loving when you respect yourself and you love yourself. You can then respect others and what they say and what they do. That's what you can also do. It's both and here. You are respecting yourself when you put up the boundary and say, no, I am not going to have my peace and my internal power stepped on, and I'm going to be, true to myself in that way. So Venus retrograde in Pisces is more of a spiritually reflective time. It's a time when Venus goes retrograde into Pisces, or went retrograde into Pisces. It's more of a time to, was more of a time to focus on unconditional love. Focus on really, really being unconditionally loving toward ourselves. Dreaming, envisioning the future. Having a dream journal is very, very important. Loving each other, and the word love shouldn't even have unconditional coming before it. Love should just be unconditional. That's what love is. If love is conditional, like you have to do this in order for me to love you, then that is not love in essence. So, we need to forgive ourselves. We need to forgive others where need be when it comes to what we do, what we experience in our lives. We need to forgive. We need to find peace and harmony and balance in our lives when it comes to forgiving ourselves with whatever we are doing, with whatever goes wrong, whatever we did wrong, forgiving ourselves from the past, because we can't change the past, but we are always given second chances to make a better future, to mend our ways, to become better in the future. And so you can take action on that future right here and right now. You don't need to wait a year from now. You can just act on it right here and right now, where you can be just having grace with yourself and saying, I wasn't perfect. I did the wrong thing, or I said the wrong thing, but I'm human and I'm growing and I'm evolving and I'm meant to be this kind of thing at this time in my life. Because that's who I was. And now it's not the person I'm becoming. I'm becoming another person. What I'm really doing is I am I am letting myself off the hook, giving myself a get out of jail free card, and having self-acceptance and just letting go of my attachment to what I did wrong and everything like that. You can take the rose-colored glasses off whenever you have a retrograde in Pisces, whenever a planet is retrograde in Pisces, then that means clarity. That planet is retrograde in Pisces, and that could mean that we want clarity, that we want to take our rose-colored glasses off, that we want to take the filters off, that we want to take the mirage and the illusions off, that we want to see things clearly as they are, as they truly are. We're seeing beyond just the illusions in that fog, in that mist that colors all around us, and getting into the wet water of that clarity, of that actually feeling of the water, not the illusion of seeing the water. Like when you go on a street and you see the mirage of the water, and you're actually seeing that come to life, and you're actually seeing the water. Or maybe seeing that there's no water, and that there's, and speaking of which, I'm going to drink some water right now. Seeing that there's no water going on. So where are you on the road? What illusion do you need to lift yourself off of? And, to see the illusions of what occurs. Can you, disclose to yourself the what goes on in that sense of the word? With, I am choosing to get past my illusions, my fantasies, my perceptions that are clouded by my own emotion, my own imagination, my own wild fears and fantasies running wild. So this is a time to pay attention to your intuition and dreams, what your intuition is saying about the relationship. Do I really love this person? Should I continue in this relationship? Should I continue nurturing this relationship? How should I go forward in this relationship? How can I make this relationship work? That's really what we have to bear in mind with Venus retrograde in Pisces, is what is true for you in that kind of relationship. What is your intuition saying to you about where you should go further. What are the next steps? What are the next things on the stepping stone, the summit steps, and walking along the water to that cave to find that mirror, you would see the truth. What is that next step? And then we can focus on spiritual connection to our higher selves or the divine, to be held and be accepted and be unconditionally, be unconditionally loved by our higher self, by spirit, by all those people, not people, but higher forces that exist up there. That's what you can really, really keep in mind, is that's very, very important. Having a spiritual practice is also very, very important to have at this time. So it can really, really help you out with feeling connected to the divine in a way that you were not previously before. It can be where you have a spiritual practice to oracle cards or meditation or something to help you connect with, to help you feel loved and held, and for self-acceptance and for self-growth and self-love and connected to the universe. Like all of these things with spiritual practices can definitely be huge things to bear in mind at this time. So it's very, very important to not fall into escapism at this time, to remain grounded, down to earth, making sure that we're not just escaping to the next movie or the next show or the next smoking, or the next alcohol, or whatever we escape into, that we're not falling prey to escapism and getting caught in patterns of wanting to avoid dealing with the reality of what's going on. What is your form of escapism? That you're engaging in this pattern and it's just not true for you, and your soul is calling you to get out of this pattern and break away from it and break away from this limitation and put a handle on it, get a handle on it, rein it in. And Spirit is calling you to, your soul is calling you to let this go and stop giving into this native tendency, this native temptation, and be true to yourself without letting it get the better of you. So, you can, resolve past relationship issues. Any relationship issue that was heavy on your heart, it was very, very difficult for you on a heart and soul level. You can resolve that at this time. Dealing with the hurts, dealing with the pain, dealing with the ouches, that can be very, very good and beneficial for you now, with whatever you want to dissolve, or not dissolve, but resolve in terms of your relationship. You can focus on personal growth, growing your soul, growing who you are on a soul level, and accepting yourself for who you are, accepting yourself for your full authentic version of you. That's what you can do, is to accept the person that you are becoming, the version of you that you are becoming, and the version of you that you were in the past, but accepting who you were and who you are now. And that having compassion for that version of you in the past, because you can't change who you were in the past. That's done and dusted. That's old news. So why should we beat ourselves up for what we did in the past if that's the place that we were, and we have to sort of respect where we were at that time? So accepting ourselves with whatever we're doing is very, very important. And very, very important during Venus retrograde is not getting the tattoos, or not getting the piercings or whatever, or not changing your hair a certain way, or not buying all of I'm going to just say it, dare I say, all of the yellow clothes, when really what you wear is black, and you buy all those yellow clothes and Venus goes direct, and you're like, I want to take all those yellow clothes back to the store. I want to donate them, So, also not, buying anything impulsively, changing up your appearance or buying anything impulsively, because that may not be very fruitful for you. You may regret buying it or investing your money into it. You may just be sorry for investing into that thing, because you may just regret it. May just be fraud, or not a very, very good deal, or the quality of it may be lacking, or something or other. No, the Venus retrograde indicates some difficulty in romantic relationships. That difficulty, what goes on in those relationships, could come up for you, and things are in review at this time. You are reviewing, you are reflecting on all of these things. You are reviewing your your relationship, your values, everything like that. Now, Venus retrograde, especially stationing, especially with Venus retrograde just standing still in the sky, it tends to magnify this urge for pleasure and love. It tends to magnify this need to engage in pleasure, to engage in what we find beautiful, we find pleasurable, what gives us joy, in terms of material pleasures, in terms of material pursuits, and matters of love also. So it can bring up a very strong urge to do that, and can be going back into the past, where people from your past may come back for a karmic resolution or karmic continuation of that relationship, or a continuing on of that relationship. Of advancing it in a kind of way, furthering it. You could meet someone that could really, really help you on your soul's journey. As we're going to see with one of the aspects during this Venus retrograde coming up very, very soon here. We're meeting somebody that can help us on our soul-like journey with this Venus retrograde. Where we are, where this person is kind to us, this person is loving to us, and supportive to us in all those kind of ways. With who they are really. Where we can forgive ourselves and others, forgiving yourself and others, letting others off the hook, not holding grudges against others, and holding things against them in that kind of way. And forgiveness is really an act of release, and freedom is really an act of releasing this tight hold on this and letting go. Forgiveness is an act of letting go of this attachment to this hurt, this pain, whatever. Now, the aspects going on for this Venus retrograde. First of all, we have we have Mercury conjunct Venus in Aries. And this is exact on March 11th. Mercury was preparing at the time to go retrograde. It went retrograde on the 15th of March. Mercury was moving forward, Venus was moving retrograde. So Mercury was direct. So Mercury conjunct Venus really, really looks at speaking from your heart. Using your heart, really speaking. What do you feel in your heart? What do you feel is authentic to you, to want to speak, to want to share, to what you really, really want to come out of you. And we want connections. We want authentic, honest connections with others. We want to connect in a very, very heart and soul level. We want to bond. We want to do all this, and we want to receive compliments. At this time, we're very, very likely to receive compliments. And we can give compliments, giving and receiving compliments, saying good things about others, saying, and I think that this too is like seeing the light inside of others, seeing the light within others, seeing what is good about others, seeing what is good about the people in our world. because we all have light inside of us. We all have good, positive aspects of who we are. It's about, taking that in and really, really allowing it to fill us up. So, anything involving what you love in your life, what you love in your relationships, and what you value, it comes to the surface at this time. With Venus with this, transit, because Venus is a planet of values. There could be any creative self-expression, ability to wanting to creatively express yourself, like how I'm creatively expressing myself in this video with my words, with my voice, that I am perfectly worthy. YouTube, I hope that you're listening to this. The company, I am perfectly worthy to be doing these videos, to be doing this podcast. You are not going to steal my joy, and you're not going to take away what I'm passionate about. You are not. So, I will hold firm in that belief, and I will live that out. So, we can have diplomatic conversations with others, with, other people, creating harmony, creating back and forth, the interaction, the engagement, everything like that, where you can have, peaceful, harmonious connections. And, we need to also not just people please and not just say what the other wants us to say, not just give the other what they want, and having to be, say this, just for the other, really, but being authentic, as well as thinking of others, being authentic to ourselves and saying what's really in our heart, saying what's really in our soul that we want to say, that we want to express, and they can be one and the same. Thinking of others and saying what's kind and true in our heart, what's really, really true, what's really, really kind and loving, can also be what is authentic for us to say. We can really, really say what is true for us in that sense when we are being true to our hearts and our souls in that way. So we can follow our creative passions. We can follow what we're inspired to do and inspired to lift ourselves up in the maker shifting us to create. What are our creative passions? And and the other thing is looking at the why behind your words. Why are you saying what you're saying? Do you really mean it? Is this coming from a heart-centered place? Is this coming from a loving place? Is this coming from a place of receptivity and heart and love and care and consideration? Is this coming from a place of I really, really mean this, and I want to walk across the bridge to the other side when it comes to saying this in the clay pits and throwing the rock over the gavel? Or do I really not mean that of what I am saying? Am I just saying fake words? Am I just giving a lip service to others with what they want to hear and not what is true for me to say? That's what we really need to think about. So then now we're looking at Venus sextile Pluto. So Venus in Aries sextile Pluto in Aquarius. Venus, as it moves retrograde, is going to sextile Pluto when it hits 3 degrees of Aquarius. So with Venus sextile Pluto, we become so consumed and obsessed with the things that we value, with the things that we find important to us, with the things that really, really matter to us. We just have this fixation, we have this obsession with these things. We can't seem to let go of it. We can't seem, where it's an unhealthy attachment, an unhealthy obsession, where our soul's like, okay, it's time to let this go, because this is not going to bring you peace, this is not going to bring you joy. If you hold on to this pattern or hold on to this way of being, this is not going to be good for you. This is not going to really be very beneficial for you. It's unhealthy. It's unhealthy addiction. It's unhealthy attachment. Like, it's all these kind of things like that. And so we need to look at where we are getting so absorbed into that. And it's good to socialize, connect in deeper, more soulful kind of ways. spending time really connecting on a more intimate heart center level, because Pluto is depth and intimacy, and we're talking about intimacy here with Venus and Pluto. So deep, intense, like I'm looking at you and I'm seeing into your soul. We're connecting on a soul to soul level. That's Venus and Pluto, in combination, in synergy, is is that kind of thing. Where we are connecting on a deeper, more profound level with others. And it's also vulnerability. It's also wanting to be with the partner, to understand what they truly feel, having a better understanding, going deeper into what they truly feel, what is really going on with them, with their own feelings, with their own perspective, with their own emotions. So, we want to show love and vulnerability. It's about allowing ourselves to feel, allowing ourselves to show up and express our feelings, express what we want, express what's in our heart, not being afraid to do this, not being afraid to actively, show the partner and show up and say, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm, experiencing on an emotional level, and I hope that you will hold space for this. I hope that you will be understanding of this and support me in this process, and support where I'm going, and support my emotions and validate my emotions, and really sit with me and listen and give me comfort with what I am truly feeling right now. That's where we can really be authentic in relationships. Looking at authenticity in relationships is very important. And vulnerability is a strength because it shows your humility. It shows your authenticity. When you can be really willing to get down into what is, true for you in that sense of the word. So now Venus sextile Uranus in Taurus. Venus in Pisces sextile Uranus in Taurus. You may feel inspired to be creative during this time with this aspect going on. Being inspired to be your creative self, your imaginative self, especially with Venus in Pisces as an imaginative element to it. There may be some unexpected or sudden connections come up, because we were talking about Uranus energy. So Uranus brings unexpected, sudden, shocking events to our table that we didn't expect, that we didn't anticipate before, and brings about unique tastes that we may have in relationships. That our taste in relationship may be very different than it usually is. We want new partners, so we want unique partners with different perspectives, with different points of view, and to look and engaging with different art, with different paintings or music or pictures or whatever. We have a liking for the unusual. And if your style is really old and stuck and stagnant, if you're stuck in the old stagnant ways of being, with your listening to the same music, looking at the same art, it's very boring, it's very stale, then get out of that and instead focus on getting out of your comfort zone and engaging in and really taking in and allowing yourself to receive different kinds of art that is very unique and different. Now, Venus sextile the North Node in Pisces. And I think that at the time in 2025, I think I discussed this aspect in my broken, crispy critter way, which I'm not now, but I was then, but because I was so depressed. But now, Venus sextile the North Node is now we can attract people that can support us on our destiny. We can attract people that can affirm that we are on the right path, that we are affirmed that we are on our soul's right path, doing the right thing, going on the right, in the right direction. That people can, really help us get on the fast track to following our soul's calling, following our soul's desires, and we can. We can have we are perfectly worthy of having nurturing relationships to to help us achieve our soul's dream. We're perfectly worthy of having people come in to help us fulfill our soul's desire and help us fulfill our soul's destiny in this life, with what we want to do in our lives, with what we want to, what path we want to go after, with what direction that we want to go down when it comes to really living out our soul's dreams and going on our soul's path and doing what really lights our soul on fire and what lifts us up and what inspires us, what gives us passion, what gives us joy. And I haven't left the office. I'm still here doing this, so it's a very, very big sentiment on my part, being dedicated and committed to this, committed to my soul's dream, no matter what kind of insecurities and bumps in the road that I've had coming up. And I'm coming up against a bump in the road right now. Yeah. And we could have fated connections that can really, really help us with these people that are responsible, who are responsible of helping us move on our soul's path, helping us get in connection with what we want to fulfill, what we want to experience, and what we want to take on, and what experiences that we want to have, and how do we want to grow on a soul level. That's really at the heart of this aspect. So that's what I have to say about this Venus retrograde and Pisces and Aries. Thank you so much for tuning in on whatever platform you're listening to. Certainly Spotify, Substack, and TikTok. YouTube, maybe. I'll just get myself that option. I cannot decide. Sometimes I may post on there, sometimes I may not. Whatever feels right. Yeah. So that's all that I have to say in this episode. I'll see you back tomorrow for part 2, and I will be discussing all 12 zodiac signs and what all 12 zodiac signs needed to know about this particular transit and how they needed to experience this transit. So in their lives, how they needed to, how they could evolve and grow through this. So anyway, I'll see you on that episode. Thank you for tuning in, and bye, everybody.